Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Aicha Evans, CEO at Zoox. And today I'm joined by our Senior Director of Policy and Regulatory Affairs, Ron Daniel. Hopefully, you've seen that earlier this month we shared that we will soon begin testing in Austin and Miami. And these new cities really bring our testing operation coast to coast, finally, and to two new states. For us at Zoox, it's been actually we're turning 10 this year, so in a month and a half, I guess.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's just a very exciting time and to be at this space. So today, Ron and I are basically going to dive a bit deeper into this testing expansion and discuss not only our approach to developing Zoox in new cities, but also how we select where we'll go next.
Great.
All right, so before we dive in though, I wanted to give a quick note that if you have any questions, please just go ahead and put them in the comment section. And also, hey, we're always hiring, always looking for new crew members. So if you're interested in checking out any of our open jobs at Zoox, please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen throughout the event. Now, dear Ron, I'm still remembering our first meeting.
Yeah.
And you have quite an interesting background. Do you want to share a little bit about yourself and how you came to join Zoox?
Sure, absolutely. First of all, it's great to be here with you doing LinkedIn Live and speaking to two topics that are dear to me, cities and Zoox. So, Aisha, first of all, my career has been incredibly rewarding. I've advised big city mayors, governors on how transportation and mobility can improve lives in cities, make these places vibrant, exciting places. You know, from my time with the United States Conference of Mayors to advising the governor of New York to my most recent White House appointment to the U.S. Department of Transportation. I have spent my career working to improve lives, as I said, in cities, and this is through transportation policies and investments. Today, as you know, and this is what is so exciting about being here at Zoox, we're on the cusp of an autonomous transportation future, one that will revolutionize the way people move in cities. And so when I think about that future, I want to see a future where shared mobility complements transit, promotes livable communities for everyone. Zoox will provide mobility as a service in dense urban areas with our fully autonomous electric vehicle designed for ride hailing. That's why I'm here.
Oh, well, we're definitely super happy you're here. So, all right. Before we actually expand to a new city, we have to identify the new location. So can you share a little bit about how we decide to do that?
Sure, absolutely can. It's a great question. We look to cities with a strong shared mobility culture, places where residents and tourists ride public transit, other forms of shared mobility, where mobility as a service, or we also call it mobility on demand, is central to getting to work, getting to entertainment. You know, the way I look at this, at some point in the day, you're going to ride in our robotaxi in a dense urban environment, but you're also going to get on the bus, the subway, metro, take a bike share or scooter share, and then get in our vehicle again, our robotaxi. So not only will this give the opportunity to get to work safely, get home safely, get to the hotel, but also the opportunity to hang out with friends. And that's going to be fun. So not only will we do that, but we're also untethering Americans from personal automobiles in cities, while helping to make these places more vibrant, sustainable cities. And we're doing this in a way that will make it fun. And that's also important. So, you know, we also, let's get into some details here. We also are measured in our approach in cities from a driving condition perspective. So some cities will require driving through conditions like snow and ice. Other places you have higher speeds to get the rider to where they need to go. We evaluate these elements carefully to ensure that as we scale, our process meets a high bar for safety, and safety is foundational here at Zoox. You know, Austin and Miami, as you said, will mark our 4th and 5th testing locations for Zoox, which also includes the San Francisco Bay Area, Las Vegas, and Seattle. Residents and visitors in these cities have established on-demand ride-hailing as their preferred form of mobility. All these cities, which is so exciting, they welcome innovation, and they want to be known as leading cities for technology, not only here in the United States, but worldwide. That is what they have in common. And what we look for at Zoox, and that is essentially dynamic, exciting places of innovation and culture.
Lovely. So we're very measured here. Some say slow, but I think we're measured is good. If you're a crew member at Zoox, you've heard tiny, small, medium, large. And that's sort of fundamental to our approach, right? This is
Yes,
the
it
long
is.
game. When we just go over some of the things you've talked about, these are not things that happen next year or the following year. We're really talking about a new era. And so I'm glad you brought that up. And so when you joined, what did you think about this thoughtful, measured approach, or basically tiny, small, medium, large?
It's tiny, small, medium, large. I talked to the regulators, I talked to policymakers. That is our approach. And it's an approach that I think gives that high degree of confidence with what we're doing here. So we've always had a thoughtful and measured approach to the rollout of our autonomous technology at every level. Before we ever drive our vehicle in any capacity, we first engage with local and state officials and regulators. That's important. That's critically important. We did this in our new cities, Miami and Austin, well before the public announcement, which is such an exciting announcement. Within my team of policy and regulatory affairs, we have city and state leads. They engage the policymakers, political leadership, the regulators in Texas and Florida months ago. And in fact, I led engagements representing the company in both Austin and Miami way back in September of last year, because I want to understand what the city leaders are looking for with this technology. And so that's really important. Now, our philosophy, and we've said this many, many times, no surprises, no surprises. The other point I do want to stress, in most cases, the city is not our regulator. However, they are our critical partner. We work hard to build these vital relationships, including with police, fire, transit, well before testing operations. For example, we prioritize first responder training. We're raising the bar of first responder training. We share the details of our test fleet vehicle. We answer their questions, but we also learn from those engagements as well.
Lovely. So as you talk about the cities, communities, obviously are key, right? They are a tapestry of community. And so we've seen the headlines, but how do we actually engage with these communities? Because trust is so important, and we want to be a member of the community. So how do we engage with them?
That's a great question. I've spent most of my career either representing or advising city leaders, mayors, transportation officials. What we're doing here through mobility as a service, we're giving the cities the opportunity to reimagine transportation in a transformative way, moving away from unsustainable transportation models built too often on solo driving, which has led to congestion and public health impacts, asthma, for example, federal and state policies that in the past have disinvested in cities, including public transit, in favor of highways in some cases, built for the car. What we're doing here is we are turning that page to a city that is walkable, livable through shared mobility and autonomous vehicle. Again, it's a generational opportunity. It really is a generational opportunity. We will extend the reach of transit into transit deserts. We will bring more people to transit because there will be less need to drive into cities. We will make roads safer. That's a key point. We will make roads safer. As you've heard many times, and I'm sure the folks watching us, an AV does not get distracted. The AV does not drive impaired, does not drive when it's tired, therefore reducing fatalities of vulnerable road users in dense cities, which too often takes the lives of Black and Hispanic pedestrians at higher rates than even other populations. And in dense urban areas, that's a critical factor to consider. Our robotaxi is designed for cities. When you think about the size, it's designed for cities. 100 safety innovations that you will not find on a traditional car today, including sliding doors that do not open into crowded streets and sidewalks, protecting pedestrians and cyclists. When I meet with city leaders, and I really enjoy engaging city leaders, I ask them to make a plan for autonomous vehicles, plan for this technology, not simply react to the AV on the road. Plan for how this technology can make the cities this incredible place that they should be. And so I urge the cities also to work with us, to talk to us, how this technology can help plan for a better future for everyone. My last point, and you know this, growing up in Baltimore, is that if you were not living on a transit line or didn't have the resources for a car like me growing up, you often missed out on opportunities that could lead to better lives. I'm here at Zoox because I believe what we're doing here will provide mobility opportunities for everyone in cities.
Yep. So, exciting year ahead of us.
It is exciting.
This summer, we're kicking off our testing in Austin and Miami, and then later this year, we'll be expanding our operations in Las Vegas, and we super exciting. And thank you for helping us make that happen. We basically recently received an extension to our permit in California to expand our driverless testing with our robo-taxi in San Francisco. I mean, I basically go to bed every night dreaming of that day because I can't wait to see our robo-taxi roaming around San Francisco. It's a really big important step towards our ride-hailing future.
It really is. I mean, I am so excited. You know, I'll be honest with you, I can't even stay in bed in the mornings because what we are doing here at Zoox is not just for an incredible milestone for this particular company, it's a milestone for the industry as well. And I would sit back and say, I want cities to embrace this. I mean, we have the opportunity to work together as partners to, again, make these places incredible, vibrant, exciting places to live, to raise families, to work. And so it's an exciting time to be here. You know, as you know, I spent a lot of time in Washington, and oftentimes I think policymakers are still stuck in 2017, thinking that it's still in the early days of testing of the technology. That's not the case. We have incredible deployments taking place, and we're one of those companies. You mentioned San Francisco. Yeah. We have Las Vegas right around the corner as well, and now Austin and Miami. So it's a really exciting time to be here.
Great. All right, looks like we have some great questions that have come in from our audience, and we're going to take some time.
Great, sounds good. Yeah.
Some of these. So, what work are you doing to make sure that what you learn in Vegas is as close to fully transferable to other cities as possible?
It's a great question. So, number one, it's a model that we have built here at Zoox, and that is built on full engagement. Starting with the regulators, we want to explain to the regulators who we are, what our technology is. We also like to say tiny, small, medium, large, and we say that to the regulators as well. And that really is the case. We will identify the area, we will work with the community, we will work with the regulators, and we scale slowly. In addition to that, again, oftentimes the state is the regulator. That's the case in Nevada, it's the case here in California, but again, that city is that critical partner. And so what we've done in San Francisco, engaging first responders, police, fire, transit, what we have done in Vegas as well with Clark County, we're going to do that as we move across the country. We've done it in Austin and Miami. We have met with the city leaders multiple times. We actually have a first responder training coming up in both locations in the next few weeks. That is our model. We have built a model that you can transfer from city to city. Every city is slightly different, so we can tailor that model for that city. But it's a proven model that is based on full engagement, full transparency, no surprises with the regulator as well as city leaders.
Yeah, and it dovetails very well with our technology.
It does.
Because we don't want to do large-scale demos where we don't learn enough that it's not transferable. And we talk a lot about the machinery.
Yes.
And really quantifying everything so that we're able to take the recipes, apply some delta, and then conquer new cities.
Exactly.
Perfect. Yeah. All right. Would a federal... this is your favorite question. Would a federal framework speed up the scale of autonomous vehicle across the U.S.?
It would. Right now, we have a patchwork approach. 50 states, so we're looking at some point in the future, 50 different models, regulatory models for AV deployment. And that's not a winnable formula. We're competing on a global scale. We're competing with China for deployment of this technology. I want to see this technology deployed here in the United States. I want us to win that race. And so it's important that congressional leaders come together. I was part of the process back in 2017, working on legislation moving through the House and Senate. That was the closest we've ever come. It's amazing to think, 2017, it's 2024. And 2017 was the closest we ever came to getting a bill through Congress. In the meanwhile, the technology has moved forward. We're seeing safe deployment across the country. We have states that are embracing the technology, but we need to have that at a national level. We need to empower federal regulators with resources and a federal law that puts in place a regulatory authority over highly automated vehicles. That's 3 through 5, and that's needed. And so we work with Congress still to help them determine what this should look like. Our point is this. Look at the Safety Act. I'm getting into the weeds a little. I'm going to pull myself out. But the Safety Act is very clear. The federal role is design, construction, and performance of vehicles. We want to apply that to autonomous vehicles as well. The state role is operation of the vehicle on public roads. That's like driver's license, for example. Mm-hmm. That model has worked very well for traditional cars. We want to see that model applied to autonomous vehicles as well. So hopefully Congress can get this together. This is a global race. Mm-hmm. China's moving ahead with deployments, moving ahead fast. Mm-hmm. So we do need federal leaders to help get this law in place. But in the meantime, we have state partners, we have city partners. We'll work that process, but we do need a federal bill.
And do we collaborate as an industry to make that happen at the federal level? Because
absolutely.
Some of it, we have to work with our partners on both sides.
Our fellow travelers. We're all on that journey together. Plus, of course, we have our trade association in Washington, as well as VIA, Autonomous Vehicle Industry Association, doing a very good job representing the industry in Washington. But it is a journey that we're all on together, and I often work closely with my colleagues in Washington. I know our state and city leads work closely with our fellow travelers at the state and city level. So it's together, working together.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right. Oh, this one says, to Aicha Evans. So I will make sure to read the question and then answer it. All right. Autonomous vehicles have the potential to reshape transportation accessibility. How does Zoox ensure that its deployment strategies prioritize equitable access to autonomous mobility solution, particularly in underserved and marginalized community? Oh, this is, it's at the core of what we do. When we're looking at, it's very easy when we look at all the data to just look at where the demand is today and stick to that. And we constantly at Zoox talk about where is the demand that's underserved and how do we serve that? How do we incorporate that feedback in all that we do? And I really can't wait. There are some community campaigns and some initiatives that we have in place that will roll out as we enter those communities. But transportation in the history of humanity, when you have access to transportation, you see more things, you want more things, and all boats come up. So please stay tuned. We're not prepared to say anything specific right now, but this is at the core of who we are, and we're really, really looking forward to make some headways there. All right, this one's for you.
So with your experience in governmental affairs, how does Zoox engage with policymakers, community stakeholders to address concerns around safety, equity, environmental impact? It's a great question, and I think in many ways I've described our process, but I will go into more detail. When I decided to leave my appointment to the U.S. Department of Transportation, I actually looked at companies in California that had a high priority of engagement with state and city officials. And Zoox was that company, hands down. Our approach is, again, we say it all the time, no surprises. Full transparency.
Even when it's hard.
Even when it's hard. Well, it's full transparency. So again, I have a talented team, and those guys are focused on state and local affairs. And we spend our time engaging with government officials, whether it's regulators or politicals as well as the city. And in many cases, the city is where the engagement has been missing for quite some time. And that's where these companies are deploying, including us. Mm-hmm. And it's really important for me to understand what the city is looking for with this technology.
We listen, don't we?
We listen. We do. We listen. And so again, it's a full approach for full engagement, state and local. in addition to federal. So I spend a lot of time with the federal delegation as well, because I want them to understand, because they have their meetings in their districts. So I want them to also understand what our plans are for that community. First responder training, we've talked about that already. That's a priority for Zoox, it's a priority for my team. We want first responders, police, fire, to have a full understanding, comfort level with our vehicle. We're also learning from them as well. And in fact, we have included many of
their feedback.
Their feedback into our vehicle. So it's a critical part of what we do here.
Yeah, one thing I don't thank you enough for. You also help us understand their perspective and point of view. That it shouldn't be adversarial.
Oh no, absolutely not.
Ever.
Absolutely not.
That sometimes our technical experts have to actually be available,
Yes.
understand the perspective. So I have to say that translation inwards, giving us their why, has also been super helpful.
Absolutely, I agree with you 100%. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Does weather play a part in your selection of new market? Yes, for now it does. I hope that someday in the future it doesn't. Again, transparency at Zoox. We start with fairly good weather. We do handle rain, but up to a certain point, though we're working on handling it up to super heavy rain too. Snow is not something we're looking at right this minute. We will get there. And it's basically because with rain, fog, and those types of conditions, it's about, can you perceive well what's going on around you, both static object as well as the interactions between moving objects. But when you start talking about snow, it's almost a consistent and constant world change. And so our vehicle, we've tested it in snow and we continue to test it in snow. And we know that the robotaxi can physically drive. But in terms of our safety bar around autonomy, snow unfortunately will be last.
What kind of preparation and support is necessary from city leaders to make cities Zoox ready? That's a good question. The way I look at this, it gets back to I want cities to plan for the technology. We know that this technology can really be a game changer for cities. From a mobility standpoint, from a sustainability standpoint, you need less parking, you can do housing. There are so many opportunities to reimagine a city with deployment of the technology. And so number one, I think it's really important to sit down with us. Actually, on my team, we have a former planner with the city of San Francisco. And her role really is to help a city think what this technology can mean. And so that's really important. And the other thing that we do here at Zoox is we engage the national associations. For example, we had a team at the National Association of City Transportation Officials conference in Miami recently. And the whole purpose is to explain who we are, to make it very clear we're here for you to learn what this technology is, but also we are a resource as well. This is an opportunity to really move from an unsustainable 20th century model of transportation in the United States, where, again, we saw the negatives, sprawl, congestion, issues around equity and access, to a model of a city that is built in a livable form, a form that encourages a community and not just a city. It's a community at the end of the day. So again, we believe, I advise mayors, city leaders, I enjoy it. And it's where my passion is, and I want to continue to do that. We're doing it right here at Zoox.
Great. And from a tech standpoint, we make sure to not ask for anything.
No.
Because it has to be, again, scalable.
Absolutely.
And yeah, sure, a few things could help here and there, but if they're only available in one city but not the other, we shouldn't rely on them. So hopefully we've stood by our promise to enter with the current infrastructure. We don't ask for any discount.
That is such a great point. It's not what the city can do for us. We have to be ready for this city, and that's what we do. And part of that is engagement. We spend a lot of time with the transit agency. And so again, it's not about, do you have to improve their infrastructure? No, we're designing a vehicle to operate on existing roads. Now, my hope is that as a country, we can continue to invest in our infrastructure and it becomes world-class, but in many places it's not yet. And so we have built a robotaxi that can operate on existing roads as well.
Can you explain what tiny, small, medium, large means? How much time do we have? No, I'm teasing. Look, it's more of a mindset. When you look at a disruptive technology, to think that we're just going to create a brand new, basically form factor, and brand new technology and just drop it and it's going to scale overnight doesn't make sense. There's also a lot of invention. There's a lot of innovation. Sometimes we're wrong. And so prototyping, experimenting, and taking those learnings and advancing them. And so you have a tiny phase where you're, for example, I guess I can say it now, it's kind of cute. The robotaxi was driving in our little parking lot a few years ago, and back then that felt like, oh my gosh, an unsurmountable task. From there, we graduated to, basically it was always on test track, but a private campus in the Bay Area. And I would say that's, sort of coming out of tiny. And now it's driving around between two offices, and it shuttles our employees and friends and family on a continuous basis, and we've learned a lot through that. That was basically the exit of tiny. And I think we're in small, the beginning of small now. We are driving around Las Vegas from basically our depot to the edge of the streets, of the strip. You can see the strip. At night, it's particularly beautiful, especially when the Elysian table is lit up and everything. And that's sort of in the middle of small. We've already said that we'll be in on the Las Vegas Strip and in San Francisco soon, still small and exiting that. And then we start carrying paying passengers, and I would say you start entering medium. Yeah. That's sort of spacing yourself, being realistic, setting expectations, and understanding that this is a multi-year journey. It's going to take time, and don't rush anything, especially because we're wedded to safety being foundational.
Absolutely, absolutely. Who else besides regulators do you engage with before entering a new market? We've already talked about first responders today.
Community,
community as well. Elected officials, the mayor, the supervisors here in San Francisco, for example, other locations are called city council members. We also engage with transit. We want transit to see us as a partner. How can our robotaxi extend the reach of traditional transit today by bringing more riders to the transit system? Because again, I look at it at this. If you're coming into the city and you're moving around the city, I say this all the time. At some point in the day, you're going to ride in our vehicle, the robotaxi. You're going to get on the bus, you're going to get on the subway, you're going to get on the bike share. What you're not going to do is drive your personal automobile. And so that is, I think, a win-win for the city as a whole. But in addition to that, community. You mentioned community. We actually spend a lot of time building community partnerships. And that includes, of course, we know the community leaders, but we also want to engage the businesses on the block. We also highly believe it's important to engage the faith community as well. San Francisco is an incredibly diverse city. And we actually enjoy that quite a bit. And so we spend a lot of time on the ground working with teams across Zoox. We always say here, one Zoox. And so it's just a broad brush at the local level. Also at the state level, though, because again, we spend a lot of time engaging the political leaders at the state level, as well as the regulators and legislators. It's the complete package. Yeah. And that's really important if you're going to be successful at the end of the day.
Yeah, I've learned a lot from the businesses, even in our engagement in Nevada. I've learned a ton from them in terms of what actually happens and what's important and so on. So, well, thank you everyone for tuning in today. We hope you enjoyed this conversation. It's a really exciting time at Zoox, and as we continue to scale, we're obviously hiring across several teams, and for our offices in the Bay Area, Las Vegas, Seattle, Boston, and San Diego. So if you're interested in joining our crew and our journey, please take a look through the available job listings on our career page via the QR code on the screen, or head to the Zoox website. And thanks again. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.